What's up, everybody? This is your man, DJ Square Knot, and you're tuned into my podcast, Square Knot Live, where we talk about music, real issues, meet great people, and get into fun and engaging topics. With that being said, let's get into it. What up, what up, what up? This is your man, DJ Square Knot, and I am back. Took a little break, had a few things going, and of course, moving around, a lot of moving pieces. I definitely wanted to get back into the topic that I had created. And I wanted to do a small DJ series. And the reason I was going to do this DJ series was based on the fact that we had a lot of people who actually are very interested in DJing. But when you ask them questions about the craft, they are clueless to a lot of the beginnings. They learn about the now, but it's always good to know the shoulders that you stand on, so that, for one thing, you don't disrespect the culture. And number two, you learn from where it all started to what you see today. And by doing that, you have more respect for it, and you get a chance to see how it's all evolved from the very beginning. And so today I wanted to come through and I wanted to talk about the pioneers, three of the pioneers, basically, which they call the hip hop Trinity. And who am I talking about? I'm talking about DJ Kool Herc. I'm talking about Africa Bambaataa, and also Grandmaster Flash. As we sit back and we think about a lot of the old schoolers like myself, who's been doing this for over 37 years now, know about these guys, know what they've contributed to the culture, how the culture got started and everything. So, but there's a lot of people out there who don't understand exactly how this whole thing started. And it's very important for us to know what this thing that we call hip hop, this culture, what it's about, and how it leads into the DJ side of this thing. Because hip hop is more than just a DJ. Hip hop is of course, the DJs. You got the MCs. You got what used to be called the break boys or break girls, which was shortened to B-boys and B-girls. And I'll tell you a little bit about why they were called break boys and break girls here shortly. And then, of course, the MCs, who would rap over the records and, put some flavor to it. One of the things I want to do is I want to go ahead on and start off. I got a few homies in here. I got DJ Rod Flash, of course. I got DJ J Rock. I got DJ Pac-Man in the place. Let's talk about Kool Herc, because he is the father of hip hop, the father of hip hop. And hip hop, as we know, it was born in New York City in the Bronx. It was born back in 1973, I think it was 1972, 1973 time frame. And it's amazing how it started, because it wasn't something that was like planned, like this is going to be hip hop, this is going to be that. This all started from a birthday party. Kool Herc's sister had a birthday party, and she wanted him to play some records. And at that time, I think Kool Herc was like 18 or something like that. His father being, and the father and his band and all the stuff, because they were, musicians. Kool Herc had that thing of, music. He's been around music and knowing about the music. So he was born and raised around all that stuff. And on top of that, believe it or not, he was born in Jamaica, Kingston, Jamaica. Getting to the birthday party, so his sister asks him to play some music for a birthday party. And Kool Herc, of course, obliges. And he notices a couple things. So he notices that when he played records, the crowd would really get going. They would really get in the mood of things when there was this part in the record that we know today as the break, or as we say, the breakdown. Back in the day, it was called the breakdown. And the breakdown of a record is when you have no vocals, but you just got the nice percussion and everything, and it's a beat that just rocking. And what he noticed is that when people, when people would, when people would come in, you know, that break beat would come in, people would get up and start dancing and doing like their favorite moves or whatever. A light bulb went off. And then he was like, yo, I can take this same album, this same song, and play this same song and the same break on another turntable. So, of course, he had the two turntables. And what he did, what we saw there is he would play the beat. He'd get to that part. Whether, let's say, you know, I won't say good time because that it wasn't at that time, but there was whatever the song was at that particular time that he was playing, and they would get busy. So then to keep it going in between, what he would do is if what he would do is he would talk in between. And see, in Jamaica, DJs were called selectors. He would go and he would do his thing, and he would get on the mic and he would talk. He would kind of improvise while he's talking on the mic or whatever. Yo, 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 you know, doing whatever just to amp the crowd up. And he get into the break again. People keep dancing, keep dancing. It get out of the break. He start talking some more. Boom, put the break back in. People start dancing some more. So he found out that if he played this break, people were like going crazy. And this is at a time before hip hop was even called hip hop. Let me make sure I make that very clear to you. We didn't know what this thing was at that time. No one knew what this thing was at that time. All we knew is that this was something that was having where this guy was able to take this song and continue playing this song by playing that break, just continuing to play the break, just talking in between, then dropping the break again, dropping the break again. And what it eventually evolved into is we had these crews, had these dancers. These dancers were called break dancers. And you had break boys and you had break girls. Later on in hip hop, we started calling them B-boys and B-girls. So I know that you've heard of it called the B-boy stance, the B-girl stance, or whatever, because that was starting to get into the whole deal of break dancing. What happened there is he started playing and it just went crazy from there. Somebody took notice of this. So now that's Kool Herc, the father. We're calling him the father of hip hop because he was the one who recognized what happened there. But there was another gentleman, and he started hearing about Kool Herc was just doing this, playing tons and tons of parties and doing the same thing and just becoming this number one selector of this music. You know what I'm saying? And he then inspired another gentleman, later known as DJ Flash, because his name wasn't his name wasn't Grandmaster Flash at first. He eventually became Grandmaster Flash. But just to jump ahead of that, because the reason I'm not going to give you all of it is because if you are interested in the DJ culture and you want to become a DJ, one of the things that I really want you to do when you're listening to this is I'm giving you tidbits, but I also want you to be able to go back and research some of these guys for yourself so that you can learn more about them. Grandmaster Flash. Let's get to Grandmaster Flash, who is inspired by DJ Kool Herc. Grandmaster Flash hears this and sees what Kool Herc is doing. And then he's like, yo, you know what? He's taking these breaks and he's doing this, but you know what? I want to try to make it continuous because what was happening with Kool Herc is that, of course, he was playing the break, and in between he was talking and he was putting it on the other one, but he didn't have, the mixer type deal to make it a quick, easy blend. But let me tell you about Grandmaster Flash. Grandmaster Flash was a technology guy. And a lot of people don't know that, but Grandmaster Flash figured out a way to create something that later became a mixer. And you can actually look up and see for yourself. But what happened there is Grandmaster Flash said, you know what? I want to make this continuous. He figured out a way to make a break beat go from this turntable to this turntable continuously. And that was with a mixer, something that was later called the mixer, with a flip switch, right? On the left side, when he flipped the switch on the left, he was playing on the turntable on the left. When he flipped the switch on the right, he was playing the turntable on the right. He took a beat. For example, everyone knows the song Good Times by Chic. Very, very notorious album for Grandmaster Flash. Grandmaster Flash created a technique by moving his hand and his elbow back and forth, and it later was something that he called cutting. But today we know that as scratching. But we do sometimes refer to cutting as well, because we have to go back to what it really was at sometimes. So you hear some of them say, I cut or I scratch. They're two of the same thing. But Grandmaster Flash was able to take this beat and, for example, good time. Pick it, good time. Go over here, good times. And while he's flipping the switch on what would be the mixer, good times, chicka, good times. He took that and was able to make it one continuous song. Of course, he of course built off of that craft and made it even better. Now, at the same time that all this was going on, and like I say, I'm going to mention three of the several empires of the several pioneers out there, but we have other DJs here who can probably talk about more pioneers, because there's also Grandmaster Flowers out there. We got Grandmaster Cass, who can talk about the Sugar Hill Gang, whole rap and all that kind of stuff. A whole bunch of things was going on in this era, but we're still shifting from 1973 up to like 1976 and beyond. Grandmaster Flash is doing his thing over here, and he's really starting to perfect continuity of a breakbeat. And at the same time, there was another guy out there, and this guy was called Africa Bambaataa. Now, Africa Bambaataa, once he got into it, one of the things that Africa Bambaataa was known for is he was really known in the streets, and he had the respect of all the gangs in the street. He had the respect of all of them. In a nutshell, he did some traveling, but once he returned, he decided to try to fix this in a way to where all these gangs would come together and they would do something that would be beneficial to the hip hop culture. And he created the Zulu Nation. The Zulu Nation, he is the father of the Zulu Nation. And the Zulu Nation, if you look back on it, it's a conglomerate of all the different gang members and stuff, but they later turned, instead of violence, they turned to the streets to do breakdance and to do DJing, to do battles and things of that nature. Everything to bring and uplift the hip hop culture. When you had these different events, or what we used to call jams in the park, Zulu Nation was present. They would do their thing. Then, of course, that spread down into Brooklyn and Queens and Staten Island. It spread everywhere throughout New York City, to the point where you couldn't go anywhere without hearing a jam somewhere, especially in the summertime. And you didn't have to ask where the jam was. All you had to do was follow the sound of the music, because it was so loud, you can hear it from 10 blocks, New York City blocks away. That's how loud the music was.
And on that note, we'll be right back. What's up, everybody? This is your man, DJ Square Knot, and I got a little something for you. If you've always wanted to share ideas or just talk about something to share with the world, hey, a podcast may just be the thing for you. Fortunately, you could do just like I did and check out Buzzsprout. Initially, I was intimidated, but Buzzsprout made it so easy with tons of videos and tools that I was up and running in no time. I love the fact that they get your podcast listed on every major podcast platform like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and more. They've already helped over 100,000 people launch their own podcasts, and now you could join the ranks and share your message with the world too. You'll also get a great looking podcast website, audio players to drop in other websites, detailed analytics, tools to promote your episodes, and more. So to start your own podcast and get a $20 Amazon gift card, click the support the show link in the show notes. This lets Buzzsprout know that DJ Square Knot sent you, and it helps the show. Peace. Okay, let's get back to it.
And back then, it was all about the loudest, the DJ that had the loudest sound. That's what it was about. And that's where they had the battles, the DJ battles and the park jams that had speakers that looked like walls, just walls and walls of speakers. So these are some of the things that you guys, if you're really interested in becoming a DJ, I know that you can pop into today's world of technology and just start. But also one of the things that you should understand too is that you should actually go back into the history of it and learn a little bit about that as well. There are a lot of pieces to this. We're going to have a conversation with some of the DJs here shortly, just to see if they have anything to add. But I just want to make sure that you understand where these three gentlemen, which they call the hip hop Trinity, these particular guys here, they were like the pioneers to get this thing rolling. Now, going back to Grandmaster Flash real quick, Grandmaster Flash took it a step further also, because once he started perfecting the whole thing of being fluent with break beats, he started employing MCs, but also Kool Herc had MCs as well. So then you had the rise of the MCs. And if you ever look back in the day from the DJ groups, and you had the DJ and MC groups, you would also see that the names of the groups always had the DJ's name first and the MC second, like Eric B. and Rakim, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, DJ Fresh, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. That's the way it used to be back in the day. But somehow or another in the culture, that soon flipped and changed to where it was just the MC and the DJ was just in the back. The culture was evolving, but the DJ was still there and a very prominent figure. Run DMC, for example. You had DJ Run, which Run was a DJ, and Run was actually the DJ for Curtis Blow, if you guys didn't know that. And then you had DMC. Jam Master Jay wasn't even in that title, but he was the DJ for that group. Rest his soul. Just to give you some examples of how the history of hip hop and how things happen. But going back to Grandmaster Flash. Grandmaster Flash, soon he started taking on MCs, and he formed the group The Furious Five. That later became the group Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. And then they started pressing songs and getting them released as a crew. These are just some of the things I just want to mention to you about how things started going. At the same time that this was going on, there were a lot of parallels of a lot of other crews with DJs forming as well. But these were considered the pioneers, as they were the first prominent ones to be recognized in the game. Because after that, it was just like an explosion of how it hit the scene with hip hop. And then by 1978, 1979, a little bit before that, there was a label called Sugar Hill. Sugar Hill comes out. Next thing you know, Grandmaster Flash, Furious Five is there. You got the Sugar Hill Gang. They're releasing songs, which is where I mentioned about Grandmaster Caz has a little connection there, which you guys need to learn about as it relates to Big Hank. Do your history and do your homework on it and dig back into the history on it so that you'll understand where all of this comes to play. Now, I got DJ Rod Flash here, who's been a DJ just probably longer than I have. He's a little bit older than me. He's out of Philly, and he definitely knows some of the history as well. So if he has anything to say, Flash, you have anything you want to add to this?
All right, first, Grandmaster Flash did not create the mixer. What Grandmaster Flash done, he done several things. I'm gonna tell y'all what he done actually. First, he called it, which is a single pole double throw switch. If you know anything about electronics,
Right,
that's how he created the queuing system.
right.
So where you
Well,
can hear from the left to the right. And
well, that's what I meant by he was the beginning of that first deal of what was to become a mixer.
yeah, they had mixers be at
Yeah,
that time. They had mixers, but it just wasn't no queuing system on it.
right.
And second of all, what Grandmaster Flash done is he took, and he was an electrician.
Yes.
You know, I said he flashed. He was an electrician. And what he done, if you actually play a beat and you let that beat go around 7 times, if you mark it from that beat, if it go around 7 rotations of that turntable, that's one whole bar. And that's how he was fluent and know how to bring it back. He just rewind it 7 times back, and it would take you right to the spot that you just left. That's what Flash done.
So also another piece to the thing with Flash too is as it related to the cue, Flash bring up a really good point about the cues. And that was is that Flash, Grandmaster Flash actually figured out a way to where he was able to do something we call needle dropping. And he was able to he knew where the break started.
Well,
So what he would do is he would put tape. He would mark those albums with those dots.
I'm going to tell you what he used to do. He used to use a crayon.
Or I was
mark
going to
his
say,
record.
and also he did a crayon as well. But also I read that he was also using stickers, but crayon was definitely the deal.
Yeah, you
And
actually see his records.
if you really think about how all of these cue points, and as we know as cue points today, all these different techniques. And speaking of speaking of the electronics, electronic music is concerned, that's where Africa Bambaataa actually started doing a little bit of, if you listen to some of his music, Africa Bambaataa always had that electronic sound to his music. And later he became like, looking for the perfect beat, Planet Rock, all these different songs. They had that electronic flavor to them. Go
Go
ahead,
back to
Flash.
Africa Bambaataa. If y'all remember the group Kraftwerk with numbers, they
Yes.
done a lot of production work for Africa Bambaataa in the beginning.
Mhm.
Africa Bambaataa just took the credit.
True.
Like you had like Mantronics that done a lot
Yes.
of stuff. So it's back
And,
then it was the game like it is today.
and like I tell you, that's where I say there were a lot of parallels. There were a lot of parallels to how all this stuff started. And of course, they do get the credit for a lot of different things. But one of the things about all of this is the fact that with the hip hop culture, the key is to really learn a lot of this just so that you have this and you understand how this whole thing has evolved big time. Because you get this kind of got on my nerves one day when I was talking to some younger DJs, and I was like, do you even know where this all started or where this came from? And I mentioned Cool Herc, and they was like, who is he and why does he matter?
But I can agree. But also, and you got people that say what people that's doing it before Cool Herc. Cool Herc just got the one that got noticed.
True. There's always somebody before somebody.
Right.
There's
But
always somebody before somebody.
But I think that
For
young
sure.
people really don't care because this game. Remember when we was doing it back in the day, it wasn't about no money, about nothing. You just done it for the love.
Right.
Now people doing it for money, and when
Exactly.
you change that dynamic, it's a business now.
Yeah, it's a totally different thing. And in this series, we're gonna get to the point about talking about DJing as a business. And also one of the things that we're going to talk about too is we're going to talk about a DJing as a business. We're going to talk about the equipment where you have the turntables back then as opposed to what you have now. You know what I'm saying? So all of that's going to come into play with a lot of the the conversations that we're going to have during this series. I'm going to try to do it in 6 sets.
The guy Travis Gell's in here, the
Yes.
history man. But I
So,
think Flash actually the one that started using 1200s because he couldn't find a turntable to do what he needed to do, and he
mhm.
went like I just seen it. Not even a month ago. I watched it like a 2 hour series on Flash. So
I saw a couple things on Flash, and I'm drawing a lot from memory, from what I've seen over the past couple years. But there's so much out there about Flash, about Herc, about Bambata, about the whole hip hop culture. And what I say to anyone who's definitely interested in the DJ culture, interested in becoming a DJ, is make sure that you go back and you review the history. You won't get it all. There's pieces just like some of the stuff right now, like I was saying about the whole thing about Flash as a technology guy. When I say technology, I guess I am actually
you in technology.
yeah, I'm a technology guy myself. So I kind of put that as one big envelope. But yeah, Flash was an electrician, and he was able to make that polarized switch deal, which later, even though there was a mixer, and a matter of fact, um, the
Or GLI. It was GLI or ELI, one of them.
yeah, I forget it, but the key was there is that Flash created something to where he can move from one turntable to the other to make it a fluid situation. And that's the key to it, where it came as it related to being able to make a continuous beat. Once he got that down packed, he learned about the whole cutting thing, where he was able to catch that and continue to get it. And one of the most notable ones of his beats that he was always scratching was Good Times. Um, Along with several others, but Good Times, that was I think that was Flash's favorite joint, to be honest with you. Um,
I
he
mean,
and
but you gotta think back then they was playing more disco records.
yeah,
It
yeah,
was more
most definitely,
disco and funk. So
yeah. And Good Times was definitely one of those.
that's just
So
one of
yeah,
for a lot of you people. But I follow him, but he cut a lot of stuff,
oh yeah,
and it wasn't so much of the scratching, just how you brought them in.
yes, yes. But with all the different techniques that he developed, and of course them putting out the records, Cool Herc doing his thing, later getting the MCs, Africa Bambata doing his thing with the Zulu Nation and growing. One of the things that he was able to do as far as Africa Bambata too was able to, even though you never totally 100% be able to alleviate crime, but by bringing the Zulu Nation together, he was able to achieve the whole take that whole thing to take the culture to a whole new level, where a lot of those people got involved in the music instead of the violence, which was good, which was very good, because you'll hear that too, and you'll hear a lot of DJs, you hear a lot of MCs, you'll hear a lot of b-boys, b-girls, you hear a lot of people that are just connected to the culture. They'll say this one thing. They'll say hip hop saved my life. You'll hear that. Like for me, music, I could say music, it was definitely a big contributor to my life. And it's definitely therapeutic. And I always say that music is definitely global, and it is definitely therapeutic. Most definitely, keep that in the forefront of your mind as it relates to anything, when it comes to music. And one other thing I want to say about Flash, because I think Flash received an award. I can't recall the name of the award. I think Bill Gates gave it to him for he was put in one of these halls of fame for taking the turntables, and by doing his techniques, they considered that turning turntables and his techniques of scratching and everything into a musical instrument.
Yeah.
There's a lot there with what we're talking about as it relates to the culture. But the key to this particular segment right here is dig into the history and dig into the art, so that if you want to really understand and be a part of this art, you will know exactly what you're getting into, because it's fun, and
I
there's
mean,
a lot of people out
but
here.
that's what it was supposed to be fun.
Yes,
It was
yes,
fun. Like But what I don't like, and it's just me personally, everybody talk about the flashes, the Bambadas, the hurt. But what about the Disco Twins, stuff like that? Like everybody wasn't as big as them. They just get the floor front. They get to shine. But you had groups that's out there catapulted hip hop just as much as they did.
No doubt, no doubt. And
Um,
that's where, like I say, digging into the history of it will turn you and have you spin off to these different groups. You'll find a lot of information out there if you just dig for it. And it's not
yeah,
hard to find. It's really not hard to find. It's just a matter of doing it. But the key is knowing what you're getting into and knowing the art and knowing who was there and what they did and how they did it to what you can see today when you set up your turntables a certain way, or when you are scratching a certain way, or when you are mixing a certain way, or when you're counting music, any of that, you know, somebody did that, and then it was recognized and it became part of what we do today and have been doing for years. It's really important that you do that. But I see we got DJ Travis Gales. He popped in. I don't know if he had something to say. I see
I see
the Blend
BB.
Princess from Bed-Stuy. She popped in. Salt has popped in. So if any of you guys got anything you guys want to add to this segment, please do, pertaining to the history of the culture and and you know what, tell us what the culture means to you, so that young DJs that are just looking to get into this thing understands just the impact that it has had on your life and the impact that you hope you will have on the DJs that come behind you, because you came behind someone. You know, for example, like myself, I always say, I remember back when I was 12 years old and carrying crates just so that I can get down with a crew and so that I could be behind that line, because there was nothing like that. And by the time I was 14, I'm sitting up there at actually 12 and am doing it. By the time I was 14, scratching Impeach the President. And that took me, and that was the first song that I scratched, Impeach the President. And if you ever hear my sets, especially my breakbeat sets, if you ever hear my breakbeat sets, I will always play Impeach the President to pay homage to my humble beginning. So, yes, indeed, I definitely do that. Yes, indeed.
But
So,
I think to start it off, we got to start from the very beginning, like the funk and disco, before you even
yes.
talk about Flash and them, because without them funk and disco records, it won't be no hip hop.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. And then that the funk and disco, that's a whole that could take
Yeah,
a months by itself to talk about.
yeah,
But
because you got to start from the beginning.
yeah, so with that, like I say, it digs into the history, because what happens, for example, with these three gentlemen, you dig into the music that they played and the music that inspired them, which allows you to tap back into when they were reaching back and getting these records, funk and disco records, and the type of records they were playing and why. These are all helpful tidbits to your research. Make sure you take these down and make sure that you continue to move forward in your craft if you want to do that, but just make sure that you know where it's all stemming from, because the DJ culture is a very prominent culture. DJs, we do a lot behind the scenes. And like I said before, there was a turn where there was a period where the DJ's name was always first, and then it's flipped, so
But do you know why? You had MCs that want to go solo.
I mentioned that I
That's
mentioned that a few minutes ago about them
and
going solo.
like Flash actually was one of the DJs that had his own albums without the Furious Five.
Hmm. That's a fact. You're right about that.
So,
Hey,
but
Square
every
Nine.
other DJ couldn't do that because they wasn't Flash.
True.
Like
Hey,
you
Square.
ain't going to buy no Eric B album without Rakim.
Right. Right.
You ain't going to buy J Master J album without Run DMC.
True that.
But Flash was that bigger than life star where he could do that. Had Grandmaster Flash and just make it sound like Larry Love and other stuff that he made.
Right. Larry Love is a good one to go back and look at. We got DJ Travis Gales. He just chimed in. What's up, Travis?
Hey, what's up, fellas? I love this topic because, I love to talk about DJ history. And I want to echo something that Flash said that doesn't get often emphasized enough, is that when we talk about Kool Herc and Grandmaster Flash and Bambaataa, when these guys set out to do what they did back in the 70s, they didn't really set out to create a culture. They was really just doing stuff out of necessity. They were young teenagers that couldn't get into the disco clubs. So they had to go to their parks and they had to go to their community centers and the projects to have a little party. Mm-hmm. And so they really didn't set out to do hip hop or break dancing or anything. It's just that they were already doing it. They just didn't have a name or sort of a quote unquote culture of it. It wasn't until the late 70s, because you're talking about Kool Herc started back in 74. So if you go to the late 70s, and there's an interview on Vlad TV right now with Melly Mel where he talked about that he didn't really get involved in quote unquote hip hop until 1977. So the so-called culture of hip hop had already been marinating for years before they actually called it hip hop.
Right.
And then once you get to Bambaataa, when they were asking Bambaataa, what is everybody doing and what do y'all call it? They didn't even have a name for it. It just so happens that at that point in time, the call and party spot, a call and response is when the guy get on the mic and he says, say ho. But at that time, doing hip hop was a call and response, to like being in the military.
Right.
And so they had to call it something. And when the writers and the people uptown in Manhattan started seeing these black teenagers from the Bronx doing whatever they were doing, they had to call it something. So it isn't like Herc went to a party one day and said, hey, you start breakdancing and you start graffiti writing, I'm going to start playing these beats, and we're going to call it hip-hop. They didn't know what they were doing until the cash register started ringing, and they had to call it something.
Right. And at the beginning of the segment, I said, Kool Herc, he started this, and as he was doing, like, for example, he didn't have that. His transition is just him talking on the mic in between as he brought the beat back on to that particular place where people would keep dancing. And I said that later on, that became something called a break, that drop, because it won't even, they didn't even know that it was called a break back then. They used to call it the breakdown of the music, which got shortened to the break. At that particular point, as things started evolving, then you had what they called these break boys, these break girls, and that was later shortened to B-boy and B-girls. But yeah, that was all over time. I didn't put it in any particular timeline like it was just like right then there. But these are all things that were part of that whole evolution there. But yeah, that's one. You were 100% right on that. 100% right.
And Flash was right when he said that there were other DJs not as famous or not as popular as Flash that were all doing their thing, but Flash saw something different than what the other DJs were doing, because the other DJs were repeating the breaks, but they weren't putting the breaks in on beat because they couldn't monitor the record to hear where the beat started. Mm-hmm. And so that device you were talking about that Flash created allowed him to cue the beat so he knew where to throw it in at. And so that's where his, I guess, being a tech guy became an asset to him. So, so I was having a discussion with a guy last week about hip hop, and he was going on about how bad today's hip hop is and how the kids don't know this, the kids back then made hip hop out of necessity. The turntable was invented out of necessity. The mixer with the crossfaders, that was a necessity. The kids throwing their own parties in the park and in the community centers, they did it out of necessity because they couldn't get into the discos of that time because of their age. So it really was like, it wasn't like they were trying to invent something. When Herc was playing these disco records, the kids weren't dancing until the get down part started.
Right.
So he was like, well, why am I playing the whole 8-minute version of Cerrone when I can just play this 8-second get down part over and over again, and then the B-boys will start jumping up and down dancing, or the black spades, if you want to call them. at
Yeah.
that time. Yeah, so you right. I love this topic, man. And I did read Flash's autobiography, and then there's tons of YouTube content about what they all were thinking about and what they all was doing during that time period.
So you hear DJ Travis Gale say it, you hear myself say it, you hear Flash say it, where there's a ton of content out there. There's a ton of research that you can do to find out about all these different individuals. And like Travis Gale, he doubled down again or tripled down again on what I said before, where there were parallels to these three guys that I was talking about, of where there were other ones who were out there doing the same exact thing. But they, of course, they didn't get the shine like these three did, but most definitely, or wasn't known as much as these were. But yeah, there were parallels, because a very good word that Travis Gale, DJ Travis Gale, said is, we did it out of necessity, and we did it for fun. That was the thing. Those were the two things. I think I've heard several other DJs said, we actually fell in love with that thing that eventually what we called hip hop. We fell in love with it, and it was fun to us, and it's this thing that just became a part of us and became a part of our fabric and what we did. There was no money situation there. There was just that. And like, for example, the whole necessity thing, that was true. You had a lot of us that wanted to go to the clubs and stuff back then. We couldn't go to the clubs, couldn't get in the clubs, unless you had a fake ID. But you go to the club, you can't go to the club, so they would throw the park jams, and that evolved into something by itself. Then you had DJ battles and crew battles, breakdance battles, all kinds of different things. And going back and just thinking about, right across the street from my project, because I grew up in the projects in Bed-Stuy in East New York, and just seeing how we threw those jams. And I was actually a part of some of those jams. It was just really, really good to be a part of something that has such an impact on my life and millions of others. So most definitely, hip hop as we know it today, or when we started calling it that and moving forward, was just truly a blessing in disguise. And there was something else that was spoken about too. It was always said that the hip hop culture would not last. Y'all remember that? They was like, this is just a fad. It's not gonna last. And here we are, 40 plus years.
Yeah.
Still going. So it's still alive, and it will always be alive, and it will continue to impact as many and millions of people throughout long after we're gone. I know we got a few more DJs on here. We got DJ Stakeout, and he put a couple things on here about salute to Grand Wizard Theodore. Yes, indeed. And of course, PIP to rest in peace to Jam Master Jay. And of course, the beginnings where Kool Herc started over on Sedgwick Avenue in the Bronx, just to bring up a couple. But yes, just know that the research is there. The information is there. And YouTube is a great place because you had so many of the old school DJs and MCs who have made documentaries and who are sharing all the information now. So there's no reason that you can't learn about the culture that you want to be a part of. So please learn about what it is. And this is Square Not Live, like I said, the podcast. And this is a DJ series. And today I wanted to tap into some of the pioneers of this thing because it's very important for who we know what we're doing and where it came from. And there's a lot of us. There's so much that springs off of all of this. So tap into every bit of it that you can so that you can get as much information and be able to talk about it and be able to understand and know where it is and where it's going and know the difference, because there's a difference between what we're seeing today. And there's a difference from what we saw before, what we saw back then, and the transitions of how things changed and so on and so forth. How we went from turntables, the infamous Technique 1200 turntables, and there were others before that, all the way up to what we have now, which are all the OEMs of the 1200s. And then, of course, this new thing evolved called the controller. And then you had DJ software that has come out and just really taken us to a whole new level. Of course, a lot of us talk about where we carried all those crates back in the day. Now, a full crate would weigh anywhere from like 20, 25, 30 pounds. If I'm correct, right, Flash?
Just about.
That's a full crate of records. And just think about it. You're carrying these crates, and you had DJ crews that was carrying 20, 30, 40 crates of records for one jam. And today, all you do is carry a laptop. So there, it's truly evolved. I don't know if for the good and the bad, but it's just something that we all need to know. I truly believe that at some point in your life as a DJ, you should actually get with a DJ who has a bunch of records, that has crates and crates of records, and just get with him and just pick one or two of those crates of records up and carry it 100 feet, just to get an idea of what it was like for us when we had to carry these things, or stack up like they used to be able to stack up like 4 or 5 crates of records on one of those hand trucks, and pull it and see what that feels like. So DJ Pac-Man, you got something you want to inject?
I'm just being a sponge right now, man. I mean, I don't research all this on YouTube, but yeah, I'm just being a sponge right now.
I mean,
but I've carried crates before to get in parties for free. This is like before the transition from Serato. I mean, from transition from vinyl to Serato, or from vinyl to Scratch Live and then Serato. But back in like 06, 05, was a spot called Legion, man. Hey man, can I carry this in? Can I carry that in and get in free? So I know where you're coming from, you know what I'm saying? And I started on the new Mark DJ in a box, and I had this is like I think I was like 13 or 14. I had one crate of records. It was like 12 records. And my uncle told me, man, you got to master this before you move on to anything else.
Oh yeah.
But my thing is, and I always say this, we complain that there's oversaturation of DJs. I think because people don't got to buy vinyl. You could go buy a laptop, $200 laptop, go to your buddy's house and download all the music you want, or go to YouTube and get all the music you want, and now you're a DJ.
Yeah.
But now back then, it wasn't that easy.
Not at all. Because see, there was something that used to be, I'll tell you something. Well, Flash, you know what? I'll let Flash tell you about this, but I'll say, what did we used to do to those special records back in the day, Flash?
Oh, you covered them out. You just crossed them out. But see, and that's the difference. You had records that made you unique. You had records that everybody else didn't have.
That's right.
Nowadays, everybody play the hottest songs.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, being a DJ, you look for that one record that's hot to you that nobody else played or had. And when you got home, you scrubbled it. You put tape over, you done whatever, so nobody else knew that record.
Right. And by doing that, they knew that, for example, when DJ Rod Flash was playing, they knew that at some point they was going to hear this one record that he had that no one else had.
Yeah, and that's
and that's the way it was with several DJs around the way. And you had a lot of DJs be like, "Yo, what's that?" They'd be like, "I got to play it. I got to play it at least a few times before I even tell you what it is." A lot of times you
didn't know the name of it.
Yeah,
as you crossed it out. You didn't know the name. You just knew how it looked, or you knew what cover you put it in. You didn't know the name of it.
Yeah, true that. We got DJ Quick on in here. DJ Quick, you got anything you want to add to this conversation?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I don't know if Travis is still up here, but I remember back and Travis is a couple years older than me, but I used to hang with the older guys. But there was a club in Fayetteville back in this is probably 82, 83, called Teen World. It was on the Mert, I believe. And I remember they had a Flash was talking about the number of DJs today. But I remember one night at that teen club, they had a battle of the DJs. So, I was thinking about, man, should I get in it? Man, I got in there. They was probably about 30 DJs back in 82, 83 that was ready to get in the contest.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I believe there's always been a number of DJs. You know, there's always been a bunch of
Yeah,
people.
but it won't oversaturate like as it is today.
Like I said, now this is
Think
82,
about it.
83, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
but you
this
had 30 then. Now you got about 1,000 now.
Yeah, but this was Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Okay.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I'm just saying there's always been, you know, competition. There's been a lot of people that played records or whatever.
Oh yeah.
You know, very few, you know, great or good DJs, but you did have a lot of people that were getting their uncles and their daddy's records and whatnot, and then going into this thing called
Right.
DJ. You know, going into this thing called hip hop. Just want to hit another point on Flash.
Mm-hmm.
Just I always find this real funny. You're the Philly guy, and you know the Philly style DJ setup, right? The battle style.
Right.
So years ago, Travis hit on about things being done out of necessity. Okay, mother of invention or something.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Necessity, the creator of all inventions.
Right. And so I was going to build like a DJ coffin. Back then I didn't have any money. My mama went down to the store. They had these Scott turntables. And I was like, Scott's? But they had the pitch control. They were straight arm, but they had pitch control. I was like, wow. I think they were like $125 a piece. So I convinced my mom. She got me those 2 turntables. So I got a piece of wood from someone threw a piece of plywood out, but the piece of plywood was too short for me to put my turntables the long way, you know. So I put them, as we call now, the battle style. This is 82, 83. I've never heard of Philly DJs or nothing.
Yeah.
So back then in 83, I built, and I have a picture of it somewhere. I built my first coffin. I also put on it, you remember the light boxes? Remember we used to build our own light boxes
Mm-hmm.
Right.
to chase your lights.
Yeah.
So what I did, and I have a picture of it, I built the battle style, but I was right-handed. I cut better with my right hand on the fader, so I put the 2 turntables on the left side. I put my mixer on the right, and then beside it, I built as they say, like Grandmaster Flash. I used to always do electronic stuff. I used to always wire stuff out, boxes and different things like that. So that's what I did. I put a little mini light box on my DJ, so when I can control my strobe light, I can control the siren lights.
Right.
You know, we used to do all of that stuff back then. We used to build everything. It was a tough time because we didn't have any money.
Money, right.
That
It was a great time about learning because we didn't have any money. So you had to go get those big the par cans, which were the big soup cans. You got out of the trash can. I lived beside a elementary school, and you go over there and get them big cans, the big cans of beans.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Cans, and cut them bad boys out at end and give me some wood.
Yeah.
Man, that night down at the Elks Lodge Square Knot down the street, you know, the Elks Lodge. Man, I had me some brand new lights.
Yep. That's right.
We
Made
used to
out of
take
that.
the traffic light.
So what
Yeah,
happened?
man.
We used to
Y'all
get
was
the
brave
traffic
for that.
light.
I heard
Yeah.
about that, man. I was like,
Yeah.
whoo. And in New York, same thing. They would get them traffic lights. I'd be like, whoo.
Paint them.
Yeah. Look,
we
hey,
wire 'em.
Yep, wire them up.
we didn't have that many lights. We didn't have that many lights in Clinton. They probably would have noticed a light.
Yeah.
But yeah, the battle style, well, what they call battle style, Racine was doing that in 79, and he came up with it because he didn't have no room on the dresser.
On his dresser.
Right.
Yep.
See, just like me, and I never heard. So if I went out somewhere, someone would say, "Oh man, you doing the Philly style?" Man, I ain't know nothing about no Philly DJs back then. Only thing I know was
And that's
the
the
piece of wood
thing.
that I had was too short, and I need to turn my turntable sideways so I could get them on there. So you know, like you were saying, a lot of
We
DJs
never know who
doing-
really created anything because you
Yeah,
might.
right.
I done it in Philly in '79. You might have done it in. I done it in March. You might have done it in January '79. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you know, like I say, that big word necessity, you know, this is the key. And this is one of the other things that I really loved about like a lot of us when we came together and we really wanted to do this thing. Everybody was broke, right? Nobody had like a whole bunch of money, but we would always come together and put our money together to make something work. You get what I'm saying?
Only we could do that today.
Because let me tell you, man, that we, for what we had, we didn't have a lot of money, but what we did have, and we put it together, we were able to do something and get something that really produced. You know what I mean?
Man,
Yeah,
I used to save my lunch money.
Yeah, man.
I had money every day to eat. Give me that free lunch. I save my money in the week. I'm going downtown, going record shop.
Get some records. Yeah.
Well, you know, Square. Now I told you that Wendell's music down in Clinton, man. I used to cut his grass. He used to let me go down and pick out whatever record I wanted. You know, and speaking of that, my first what I call professional amp was a Marantz. It had power amplifier on it.
Oh yeah.
I got it from one of Travis's spots. Look, Travis talked about it.
That joint was heavy.
Yes.
Look,
that joint was extra heavy.
Look, down there Rudy's pawn shop. But the thing was, it had where you had to strip the wires. You know, like for house speakers.
Yeah. So you can plug
it. I did, me being an electronic guy, I went into it. I drilled me 2 holes and I put me 1/4-inch jacks in it.
Wow.
So that's how I plugged up my first like loudspeakers. That's what I did, man. I used to, man, I would go into something in a minute. I open it up in a minute and hook something up.
Let me tell you, back then when we was doing all these modifications to equipment, our best friend was Radio Shack.
Oh yeah.
Radio Shack was our best friend. And man, every time we wanted to try to do some modifications like what you talk about quick, we'd be like, we got to go to Radio Shack and get these parts. You know, RCA jacks, 1/4-inch jacks, you know, fuses, all that stuff, man.
Yo, fuse would blow. You made sure you had some extra fuse.
Yeah, man. We had to carry a ton of them because them amps, man, once them amps got hot and you ain't have enough fans blowing on them. Because, you know, them little rotating fans, man, we had about 4 or 5 of them on an amp. You know, especially them real big amps. And then when them tubes, y'all seen the amp that had the light tubes?
Yeah,
Macintosh
used to use them.
Yes, whoo. Them things be so heavy. And that's why when I was trying to get down with the crew and eventually, you know, they let me play or whatever, what I did is I would always I would be like, let me carry the records. Because carrying them amps, whoo, and then if you dropped one of them joints,
oh yeah, your ass is grass.
So I was like, let me carry the records. There was a couple times I had to handle an amp, like take it from like one table to another, but other than that, that was it. I was like,
hey, look, y'all probably checked me out that I sold my 2 sets of power speakers, right? But also took out my I got some double loaded 18 PVs. And I took them out of my trailer for the first time in years. And I plugged them up Sunday. Monday morning, man, I'm sore. Like, man, what's wrong with me?
Yeah, man.
Handling them big speakers, man.
82 pounds, man. 82.
You ain't young as you used to be.
Yeah, those double loaded 18s, the cabinets are 100. Them cabinets are 100.
Oh, you talking about double 18?
Double 18s, yeah.
Oh, whew.
Yeah, hey, and I got the Crest audio amp, the
you know, that's a
DA9. Man, like I said, I was hurt Monday.
Yeah, and see, this is all the stuff that I'm talking about as it relates to, just really when DJs, like I say, today they want to get in, they want to really learn, want to get into it. I want them to understand. That's why I started this podcast. I want them to understand that this culture had a lot of us really working, and you know, in terms of us getting it set, just talking about all the stuff. But once we got set up and once we did what we did, we had fun doing it, and that's why I just truly believe that if you're interested in the culture, if you're interested in, you know, DJing or whatever, I'm not knocking the fact that you can't get in. And like Flash said, you can get any music now, but just know how it all started. Know how what had to go on with DJs and with individuals who had this whole thing going, and the parallels of all these different crews out there. Because there's tons and tons of crews, tons and tons of music that date back. You can look at the albums and they date back way back early 70s. and come all the way up. Just really try to understand about this thing that we call DJing. Before I get ready to close this particular segment out, and end this particular segment, I wanted to make sure I gave all the DJs an opportunity to chat on it, because we're going to continue to have our conversation afterwards, of course. But I want to make sure I don't keep you too long as you're listening to this segment here on Square Not Live, DJing and the pioneers. So, DJ Rod Flash, you got any words you want to, or any good recommendations or anything you want to share with the audience?
Man, if you like I said, y'all getting a DJ and learn it the proper way. And remember, you're not DJing for you. You DJing for that crowd or the audience that you have in front of you. And a lot of DJs I see, they see another DJ, soon they be rocking a party, playing some nice joints. Soon you see a DJ, now you want to mix and scratch. It's not about that. Keep just rock for the people that you rocking for, and leave it at that.
That's very good advice. Very good advice. Take heed to that. DJ Quick, you got anything? You got any words or advice to the audience?
Yeah, just it's all about the music, man. It's about making people feel good. It's about you feeling good, and it's about having a good time. So that's keep it at that. Just keep it at that.
Indeed. DJ Pac-Man, you got anything?
Man, just find your groove and stick with it. You know what I'm saying? Just find what you like, find what you know how to do, find your comfort zone and stay in it. But don't be afraid to explore new varieties and new styles of DJing and styles of music, but find your style of DJing and make it your own.
Indeed. DJ Travis Gales, you got anything, sir?
Oh yeah, guy, man. Thank you for putting this platform together, man. It's very refreshing and informative, man. So thank you very much for that. But I posted something on my timeline today that I heard somebody say that I think would be pertaining to this, is that you can't really teach anybody anything. They only can learn from you. And so it is up to us to be an example or the carriers of this so-called hip hop culture. See, we lived it, we learned it, we are part of it, but the people who've never experienced it, we'll never be able to teach it to them. The only thing they can do is learn it from us by us being an example. So if we don't carry it on, if we don't foster it, if we don't create platforms like what you're creating right now, they'll have nothing to learn from, versus we expect them to teach it to them, and then we expect them to carry it on. It's not their responsibility, it's our responsibility. That's all I got to say about it.
Appreciate that. Any advice to the audience in terms of we got this DJ series, and this is about the pioneers and learning the the hip hop culture. You got anything you want to share on that before we close out?
Just listen. Even if whatever some of the old heads, so to speak, are saying, doesn't necessarily pertain to you, that doesn't mean you can't glean information from them. Just listen to what they have to say. And if you can't use it, then don't use it. But there's a lot of little subtle things about DJing that is missed by a lot of the younger people now. And it's missed because they, haven't been paying attention to what some older cats have been saying to them. So that's all I would say is just listen.
Very important words. So I'm your man, DJ Square Not. This is Square Not Live. And you've heard a lot of information today. And I want you to take this information and be able to utilize it in a way that's going to benefit you as you learn and you step into this thing that we call DJing. This is going to be a series of information that I'm hoping that you will be able to use as a reference, as a tool, as you move forward in your endeavors and in your interests of getting into the culture, because we don't want to deny you. We just want you to understand that there is history behind everything that you do. And the key word there is learning, and also knowing how this was a necessity back in the day and how this was fun back in the day. And we want to make sure that we keep it that way. The next couple series, we will definitely be talking about the evolution, of course, as we continue to see it evolve. Where DJing becomes business, where it becomes investments in equipment, the different types of equipment, different questions of the sort that you may have that you had been thinking about. I'm hoping that with the panel of DJs that would be on those particular shows, that you will be able to obtain the information that you need. So without further ado, I just want to say to all of you all, this has been totally awesome. I hope you guys have enjoyed this particular segment, and look for the next one here on Square Knot Live. You can catch me on any of the podcast outlets, and you can also catch me on my podcast website at podcast.squareknotlive. And of course, you can catch me on Instagram at Real DJ Square Knot. So if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate. Leave comments on the podcast, and I look forward to hearing from you. Have a good night.